Welcome to Community Green TiniHabitat Podcast, where we explore the extraordinary journeys of different individuals. I'm your host, Yusuf, and today we have Mubasher Malik. He's the admin of the Active Muslims group. Mubasher has been leading the charge since April of 2022, organizing a wide range of outdoor events such as hiking, climbing, biking, and more. His love for nature and desire to build a community of like-minded individuals inspired him to create Active Muslims. In this episode, we'll dive into Mubasher's personal journey and discover how his passion for the great outdoors developed. We'll also explore the founding story of Active Muslims and learn about the motivations that drove Mubasher to create a space where people from all backgrounds can come together, connect, and enjoy exciting adventures. So let's get comfortable and embark on this conversation. Welcome to Podcast Mubasher.
Thank you for having me, Yusuf. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. So how are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. We had a good weekend. I've got a couple of calls with yourself and another one. And alhamdulillah, it's good. Good start to the week.
Yeah, awesome. You're talking about events, right?
Yes, exactly. Basically, we do events every Saturday and Sunday and have been for 2 years, actually.
2 years?
Even though Active Muslims has been going in its current form for a year, but I've been doing the events for around 2 years.
Okay, so in the intro I said 2022, but I only gathered that info on Meetup. You know, I looked at the calendar on Meetup and I see like you've been active there since April 2022. But I guess you've been doing it for more. You have Facebook groups as well and other areas as well, I guess, right?
Actually, not on Facebook. There's only so much you can do on your own. Basically, it's something that I started on my own, and I'm mainly still doing it on my own. So it's very difficult to do that. There is an Instagram, but we're not on Facebook at the moment. I'm not sure if it's worth anymore.
Okay, so maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit more. But before talking about the group more, I want to ask a little bit of personal questions. Start off with a little bit of personal question. So can you share with us your personal journey of how you developed a love for nature and outdoors before even like starting the Active Muslim? Like what experiences or moments sparked this passion within you?
That's a good question. Actually, there is quite a long story and a long journey, but to cut it short, I think we all go through challenges in life, and I was certainly going through my challenges. Having worked as an IT director for quite some time, there was a period of my time where I wasn't so active, even though most of my life I was very active. I always say inadvertently or accidentally, but that's another story. So I was active. And so this period of my time, I was quite inactive because you're in meetings, you're in front of your computer all the day, and with other stresses, you tend to forget about the regular training and whatever. So it's only after a period when I realized actually I've really fallen back on my sort of exercise sort of routines. And I was very passionate. I still am. In fact, my whole previous journey to getting active, I spoke about on another podcast before in quite detailed. And so, prior to that, I was quite regular. I was training. I was actually training other people. But for some reason, that period, and we all go through it, I think, in life, sort of certain situations in your life. And I kind of started to think that I need to do something about this. And initially I just needed to do some cardio. So I hated running. So running was something I didn't like. But I knew that actually it's the simplest thing to do. Yeah. You just put your trainers on and you run.
Yeah.
I had a very severe back problem when I literally did everything to try and fix it. Literally, almost, you could name it, I could probably done it, whether it's acupuncture or advanced chiropractic, or whatever it is. So finally, kind of, that was reasonable. I could deal with the back pain. Again, that's because of sitting down too much. And so the cardio side, I started running, but I didn't like running. But I like techniques because I'm a martial artist. I've done martial arts for a very long time. And for me, I'm always intrigued by techniques and those kind of things. And I came across barefoot running. at that time.
Barefoot
This was
running.
probably about 6 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And so the more I read about it, the more I was intrigued, and more I was convinced that actually this is the best way to run, because it's less impact on your back, and it's a
Yeah.
natural way of running. And when I discovered that, things that should be quite obvious, but they're not. They're very people believe that the trainers have been there for I don't know forever, but they haven't. They've only been around since the 1960s, 70s. That's it, 60s and 70s. So our heel striking that we do, it's something very new, and it's not
Yeah.
natural. And but if you talk to most people about it, and what most people wear, almost 99% of the people, more than 99%, you'd think that was the norm.
Yeah.
So it was quite a wake-up call for me, and then I started running barefoot, and it was really hard. And but I loved it. I started to like running, where I actually hated it, and now I started to love running. So for 6 years now, I've been running barefoot. Not totally barefoot. Sometimes you wear these what they call the finger gloves or 5-finger gloves to protect you from, obviously, from the road and objects. But the whole idea of running barefoot as well, just on grass, earthing yourself, all of those things started to bring me closer to nature, and I started to find that actually I was feeling a lot better, and my back was better. I wasn't impacting on it so much because of the technique of barefoot running. And so it really kind of opened my eyes, and I also needed to take some time for myself, because I had been in a very kind of stressful environment in a job, managing a lot of people, other directors, other managers, a whole team. So I decided I need to just focus on myself. So I did a lot of things. I did, just for fun, I did level 3 PT, for example, personal training, not because I wanted to be a personal trainer, but because I liked the idea of learning more things. And I already had the background of martial arts, so it complemented well.
Yeah,
I traveled a bit.
Can I ask something about like barefoot running? I mean, I run myself as well. I mean, I don't run professionally. It's just that, in the mornings when I wake up, I need that kind of steaming, going into cold shower also like helps me to come into my senses. I run 3-4 kilometers maybe, like every 2 days, right? Do you also join into marathons, or like have you ever tried to do those sort of stuff with your own technique maybe?
No, so I know a lot of people aspire to sort of do marathons, and that's great. I think if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I have no desire at all to do marathons. I believe that actually sometimes we're influenced quite a lot in life. We do things because others have done it, or we feel a fear of missing out. Alhamdulillah, I don't really have that kind of a problem. I think I've kind of learned over the years, you don't have to do everything in life. You don't.
Yeah,
we put ourselves under too much pressure to say, oh, you know what, I haven't done a marathon, so I must do this. Or I haven't done this peak, so I must do this hike on the,
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. You've got so many things to do in the world, and there's only so much time, and you don't have to put yourself under so much pressure. So I don't have a desire, but I think if somebody does want to aim for it, and they feel it's something they want to personally do, for charity, or they want to do it for themselves, perfectly fine, of course, and they should go for it. But personally, I'm not into that. I only do 5K runs for myself. That's it. I won't do any more than that usually. I have done 10K charity runs in barefoot a while back, but in general, I will only do 5K, and I will do a faster 5K, because I do it more for the stamina and building up your performance. So for me, it's sprinting is one of the best things you can do in terms of improving your cardiovascular health. So rather than jogging and running and walking, even if you can do fast sprinting, interval sprinting particularly, I believe the science is pretty clear now on that, in terms of how good it is for you.
You got me convinced. I am gonna drop like training for the marathons. You'll have to like explain this thing to my running buddies as well. So probably yeah, they'll waiting
I
for
don't.
me.
I'm not trying to discourage anyone, encourage anyone. I just think you've got to do what you feel is right for you. But that's
Yeah, yeah, sure.
my personal view. That actually, sometimes I think, particularly in this social media environment, we do put ourselves under a lot of pressure, and I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
one has to question that
yeah.
about everything almost in life nowadays. That why am I doing something? Why is it?
Yeah.
What is the real reason behind it? And sometimes we don't fully understand ourselves because subconsciously, we're just doing it without really realizing, actually, I'm putting myself under pressure, without realizing you're putting yourself under pressure. So it's very important to be a little bit more conscious about what we do and why we do it. Uh, yeah, why we do it. It's very important. That's a question everybody has to really answer. But dig deep. Not just, oh, I'm doing it because I'm doing it for a charity. My friends are doing it, and so on. No, why are you doing it? What is the real reason for you? And do you feel a little pressure inside you saying, I kind of don't want to do this, 26.3 miles marathon really inside, but I'm going to do it because of friend pressure from, society or friends. I've said it already.
Yeah.
I've got to do it. I'm doing it for this charity. Well, put that aside. Just focus on yourself. Do
Hmm.
you really want to do this? And what is the real reason for you to do it? I would say ask that question always for everything almost.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. I mean, most of the times these days that doesn't happen for I mean, running is like sort of a healthy habit, but people don't go for like running. People do unhealthy stuff because of the social pressure and I mean, if it was for running, I would say go for it, but you're right. Many people do these kind of unhealthy stuff because of the social pressure, because of social media, because of everything. So we got to be more conscious of like asking those questions. I totally agree. If I may go to another question, is I am also like very curious on founding stories. So now that we have like personal
Hmm.
background on you, so can you tell us also a little bit of like what inspired you to start Active Muslims? You were explaining you had back problems, you were doing Barefoot and all that stuff. So at what point you wanted to like include more people and also create a group for hosting events focused on outdoor activities and connecting the like-minded individuals?
Sure. So after that period of me trying to sort of get a little bit back to the fitness side, I decided that I'm going to sort of explore what's around me more. I mean, obviously, I lived in Putney, and it's got the largest park in London, Richmond
Mm-hmm.
Park, right next to us. And I used to visit that park all the time, take my family there, and we sat down, we had a little picnic, and we came home, and we called that going to the park. And majority of, particularly the Asian community, I would say, and a lot of the communities from South Asia or whatever will do that. I mean, it's a common story that I hear all the time. Yes, I've been to this park, but I didn't do any proper walk or didn't explore it. So one of the common things I get from people is, oh, I didn't actually see this park. I've never sort of seen it properly. It's because that's what we do. So I used to do the same. So when I started exploring myself, my own mental health, my own physical health, and just to give myself time, I
Mm-hmm.
started to really appreciate far more than I had ever done in terms of how beautiful some of these places are. The very places I've been so many times. And just walking and taking your time and exploring it and doing a proper walk. Richmond Park is, as I said, the largest park in the UK. You go in there and it's
You can't
like
get
you're in
out.
some other. Yeah, exactly. It's a huge park.
Yeah. Okay.
So you could walk in there for hours. 3-4 hours walk you can do without any problems. And so I started doing that, and I realized actually the more I did it, and after a few months of this, I had this. I used to do this cycling route a lot from Putney all the way to Richmond. This was one of my favorite route, and I thought this is amazing. This is fantastic. I love this route. This is so scenic. It's just beautiful. I love cycling. It's not on the road as well. It's off the road. And then it hit me. It hit me that time. One of the times I was cycling, that I really enjoy this, and I'm sure there are other people who would enjoy this and appreciate this, these views that I'm seeing, and the realization that there are people on the planet who will never see such greenery. They will never in their lives see such greenery in their life. In fact, people have passed away without seeing such greenery that we have in this country. And you know what I'm talking about, the countries that are already, have many challenges, and people are living in such state that they don't have time to go around in a park and spend time. We're in such a privileged position that we have such a green land. So they mainly see brown and desert and what have you. They don't see such greenery. So for me, that was the point that I said, let me share this with other people, because I know London well. I know some of these routes well because I've been doing them myself for a while. So I'll just simply share it with others. If someone is interested, fine, they can join me. If they're not, that's fine. I'll do it on my own. I'll enjoy it just as much. I don't have a problem with that. So that's how it started. And my intention right from the beginning was this, that I will do this regardless of who turns up. Whether it's one person, whether it's 30 people, 40 people, it doesn't matter. Because the intention is to get people, our communities in particular, out and get them exercises. But actually, there's a little bit I've missed a few years in between. So prior to doing this for our communities, I got involved with a boot camp. So there were a number of volunteers, and I was one of the volunteers. And we used to do an outdoor fitness boot camp every Saturday, every Sunday at 10 a.m. for a couple of hours. And, we used to train people and run and do some kind of CrossFit kind of stuff outside. And I remember in the summer I had up to 70 people. And these are all people from all over the world, really. Eastern Europeans, British people. Very few Asians in there as well. So occasionally there was one, Asian or African or whatever, but generally
why no Asians?
Was either locals. I don't know. But, I will come to why, actually. Actually, I can answer that question, I think, in terms of why. So it was very consistent. 10 o'clock, they came, they did their boot camp, and then we all went together to have a healthy breakfast in one of these places, these fancy places in the morning, to have breakfast together. So there was a little bit of a social element, but everyone was very focused. They were in their 20s or 30s mainly, but very, regular and consistent, which was fantastic. So when I decided after that period that actually I'm going to do this for our communities, mainly the Muslim community, but anybody is welcome, but because I could see there's more of an issue getting our people out, and I could see that from obviously the boot camps.
Yeah.
There was an issue there. Why aren't our people? I mean, it was in Clapham Common, and we're very close to Tooting and Balham and whatever, and there's lots of Asians around. There's lots of Muslims around. Why is it I only saw one in all of that time? Maybe two. In all those years, it doesn't make sense. So what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so for that reason, when I started to sort of do these events and focus on our communities, I felt I needed to just think this through, that this is going to be tough. I already knew it was going to be tough because I think there is an element of we have a lot of meetups. There are lots of groups, and vast majority I had been to, in terms of what they did, and even the walks was more of a social thing. The hike was a social thing. Everything is very social. You can invite people for a coffee meetup or a dinner meetup. You'll have a full house. But when it comes to anything else, like a proper hike or activity, then it's not as popular. So I knew this was going to be a little difficult, because when I started doing it, that's exactly what happened. For the first year, it was pretty tough. I had people coming to the event saying, I thought this was more of a mingling event because we started walking properly.
What event?
I said we walk.
What did they mean? Like what
Yes.
kind of event?
Well, the event that I was doing was a walking event. I've stated
and
this,
what
this
did they
is a walk.
expect?
So, we're actually walking. I mean, I've had comments like that saying, well, we're actually walking. Yes, it's a walking event.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had the response saying, "Well, I thought this was a mingling event." I said, "Well, I know, but this is the thing. You see, this is the perception. So even now, we still have this situation that
Okay.
some people from other groups will come along and they will think it's the same thing. We're just mingling, strolling through the park or whatever we're doing." And so I have to explain it very clearly. This group is very much about focusing on yourself,
Mhm.
focusing on the actual activity. So we're doing walks and hikes. We're doing them with a pace in the intention of exercising. If you're not getting out of breath when you're doing a walk, what's the benefit? You're not getting any benefit. You're not improving
Yeah.
your health. So for that reason, this group is very particular about those things, but also not just particular about the actual activity, but the way you approach that activity in terms of how reliable are you. So you don't just say, "I'll turn up," and then you don't turn up, and there's a waiting list, and yet you don't remove yourself. Because I also limit numbers, and there's a reason why I limit numbers, regardless of how many people are interested. So if
Yeah.
I'm limiting it to, let's say 25 people,
Hmm.
and there are people who are saying, "I'm going to come," they just tap the RSPV because they just want to reserve a space, as
Yeah.
they generally do in lots of meetups, and you don't turn up, and then you don't remove yourself in time, or you do it midnight when no one's got a chance to come into the going list, then that's not a fair thing to do. That's not a good thing to do. So it's also about instilling that kind of value, that just because these are free events doesn't mean they don't have value. Sometimes people are paying £20 for a hike that, without the exaggeration, sometimes I feel I've done it in a better way,
Yeah.
without being arrogant about it. And
No, no, I think, like
yeah,
you need to give her the credits too. I mean, from my own perspective, once you do one thing again and again and again and again and again, you get really good at it. Everything that I've done in my life, I mean, it can be, my native language is in English, but where I speak with a lot of people, I improved. Same thing with the keyboard, same thing with the content creation for me. So
sure.
I would assume, like, looking at your meetup page, you have like past 180 plus events, I guess. I mean, that's what I remember now. So, I mean, I would say probably those are very, like, I mean, the ones that you're doing now as well might be really quality events, right? Because once you do something again and again and again, you get very good at it.
Yeah, and also because just because they happen to be free, but
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time with these events. So I was explaining to someone about one of the hikes that I do that I really love, because I spent a lot of time with it, and I wanted to design it in a particular way so it was more like an interval training. It's a hard hike. It's 25 kilometers. It's 15 miles, which takes a while to do. It's in the Surrey Hills. So I haven't done in I would say most of the UK, that all the hikes that I've done, apart from one or two that we've kind of visited because we were doing a overnight stay in Lake District, for example. Obviously, I don't have the time to go there and do that, but in general, almost 99% of the hikes that I've done, I have always trialed them before to make sure, especially for meetup. And that
Mm.
particular one that was 25K, I did 3 times in 1 week, because I wasn't happy until I was happy with it.
Oh wow. Yeah.
The route had to be right. There's
Yeah.
a reason why I do that, because I want it to feel right for me,
Yeah.
because
Awesome.
I want to share it from my perspective, that I like this hike, and then I want to share it. So and it has to have certain elements. The scenery has to change, every 20 minutes, 30 minutes. That's why I don't do hikes that are just very long next to the river for 20 miles, because we're human beings. We need change. We
That's
need to
boring.
we have to look at the psychology. Yeah, we have to look at the psychology of it as well. So it's
Yeah.
about the training. It's about number of hills, type of terrain, type of view, and all of those
Hmm.
things combined, for me, make the hike even more interesting. And that's why I try to focus on those things. I try to cover as much as possible. So every park that I do, even in London, One of the common sort of comments I get is, "Oh, I didn't see this. I haven't seen this. I've been here so many times." It's because I
Yeah.
spend so much time to make sure that I try and cover all the best elements of that park, all the interesting or
Yeah.
well-known kind of things that people may not have seen. So for that reason, it's done with a passion, and hopefully people appreciate it.
One of my questions, I think, really related to this that I wanted to ask is, were there like any specific challenges or obstacles you faced when starting this? I guess you mentioned, people asking for mingling, but, maybe there were some others, and like, how did you overcome them? What lessons did you learn along the way while hosting these experiences?
Well, I think initially, as I said, the first year was really difficult. I was actually hosting them on another group, so that's why Active Muslims, was started about a year later. It was started on the 1st of Ramadan 2022. And the reason one of the reasons I started it was because of this issue of people coming from different groups. When it's all mixed in a particular group, they think everything is done in the same way, that everything is a social mingling event. And so that was the biggest challenge from people in terms of just coming and assuming that this is just another strolling event and we're just going to mingle, and it's not, the walk is an excuse and we're here to just mingle with people. And so getting that through to people was difficult, so it took time. So that's one of the reasons for having a separate kind of platform, so that people start to understand that, okay, if you're joining this group, then that's the deal. This is what we're actually going to exercise. We're actually going to push you to exercise. The harder the exercise, the harder the hike, the stricter we are with those things. The stricter we are with, your attendance records, the stricter we are with your pace, and the more we're going to push you. So there's something for everyone. I have this, very simple traffic light system. If you see a green or, that's a very easy hike. If you see a amber, that's kind of moderate, and so on. So people are kind of caught on, and there are some people who jokingly say, "Oh, and every time I see a red, I'm not coming to that." So you have the situation where people very clearly understand what they want to go. They see it's right at the top. They'll see, okay, that's a green, I'm coming to that one. Or some people actually say, no, I'm waiting for the red ones, I'm coming for the red ones. So we have some very regular people, very reliable, regular people who attend, most of the hikes, and they've made good connections. And the argument, actually, I have for people who say, actually, we want to make friends, we want to meet people. My argument is this, that and I've written this down in the introduction of Active Muslims, is that often when you're meeting people for the first time and you're going to a coffee meetup, you're sitting in front of each other, making small talk, it's awkward conversations. But when you're in a hike or a walk and you're facing forward and you're talking to someone next to you, that conversation often comes very naturally. In fact, you don't even realize how you started talking in the first place. You'll notice this. And the proof is, in the 2 years, we have very good connections with people. People have made very good connections, very strong connections. I would argue far better and stronger connections than they would have if they continually just go to those other meetings. I mean, there's obviously, there's room for everything in terms of different kinds of meetups or whatever. I'm just saying, if your intention is to meet like-minded people, then do what you enjoy first. Put yourself first. There is an element of people putting themselves under a lot of pressure also with regards to this, that, I'm going to all these meetups and, this is the thing to do, because, if you want to be more social, you'll go social events. You meet more people, you talk to more people, that's the best way to do it. I would say no. I would say do what you really enjoy. What is your passion? You like doing, whatever, cycling or hiking or chess or whatever, go and do that. Find like-minded people, focus on yourself. But vast majority of our communities, that's what they prefer, from my experience, even now. And I knew that, and I said, that's fine. This is not for everyone. This isn't for everyone. It's for people who are ready to make that change. who are ready to actually say, you know what, I really do want to, at least once a month go and do some proper hike or do something a little different,
Yeah.
change my mindset about that. So that's really
Yeah.
what it's about.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, you're right. I think, to connect with people, you gotta have some sort of thing in common. Maybe the joining in different meetups would solve that. But I also think, it's very interesting what you said. When you're walking, facing forward, like speaking with different people, like everybody's walking, and
Yeah.
it's the conversation comes up naturally, right? I mean, yeah,
It does.
that sounds a little bit intriguing as well. I mean, I personally have never done walking with groups, to be honest, but I personally like walking. For example, if I'm going to a date,
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Sure.
prefer walking, like other than just like sitting like some
Mm.
sort of static place. I kind of, I guess, understand your point there. I also feel comfortable, walking and talking in a sense. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I see you hit a good point in terms of, you mentioned dating. It's kind of an elephant in the room in most of these meetups.
Oh, really? Okay.
I yeah, it is, and I think people find it uncomfortable to talk about. Also, generally, people, my perception is that, from my experience, what I feel is most people tend to kind of almost hide this from themselves. That what are they there for? I mean, I don't know about the ladies so much, but the guys do talk to me about it. And there
Yeah.
are some people who say to me very clearly that, I'm just looking for someone. I just want to find someone. And my advice has always been to them, look, you're going to all of these mingling events, and you've been doing it for years, and you're going to in this vicious cycle, and you're getting more and more frustrated. You're
Yeah.
putting yourself under a lot of pressure. Now, I think this goes for men and women, frankly.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself under so much pressure to find that person
Yeah.
in these events. But I say the same thing to them. I said, go and do something you enjoy for yourself. Do it for yourself. Even when you come to my events, I want you to focus on yourself. If you have this pressure, I might bump into someone. I might find somebody. That's what most people do. That's what most people want. They want
Yeah.
love, and they want to be loved. That's the
Sure.
reality, right?
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of people are divorced. A lot of people are single in this country, and it's a difficult situation, and it's a difficult thing to do to find the right people. Absolutely, it is. And I would say you have a better, stronger chance of finding someone when you are focused on yourself, and you do what you enjoy, and don't put that pressure on yourself. Because what happens, I feel, is you're almost subconsciously giving out signals of how desperate you are, for example. I've seen
Yeah.
this with people.
Yeah.
And if you're in that situation, people are put off anyway. So I've seen this with a lot of women, and I've seen this with a lot of men.
Yeah.
They'll go to these meetups, and there's this almost, it comes across as somebody who needs time to sort themselves out. And
Yeah.
for that reason, I would say, go out, enjoy time with yourself, other people. And actually, I would say there's more sort of socializing in these kind of events where you are doing proper hikes or whatever, because there's a shared struggle. And you know what shared struggles do? They bring people together.
Yeah.
And so you bond with people far better.
Yeah.
And a good example is even in this group, we have subgroups who, there are some ladies who get together, they do some socializing themselves, maybe go to the movies or whatever, or they have dinners together. There are other groups there's a camping group within it that's developed through, through this group.
You're not leading all these
and
stuff,
there are
right?
other
Like some other people also lead some of those stuff.
Sorry?
Like you're not leading each one of these groups, maybe like some other people create.
No, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is those people connected through this group.
Yeah.
So they connect,
Okay.
they make their own small group
Okay,
that is more
yeah.
niche to them, that what they want to do. So there are some people who want to do camping, wild camping maybe. It's quite specific. Not everybody wants to do it. So they have their own little group, and they've created that, and they've met through this group.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
similarly, there are other social groups, so at least they have a better connection, because they haven't met up only in the social groups. They've generally met up through these kind of groups where they've been hiking or whatever. So they have a different connection. Maybe they've had one of those overnight events that we've done. They've bonded better that way, or they've done a very hard hike, bonded better in that way, whatever it is. But what I'm saying is that people connect, and I've seen that kind of connection happen in the group. In my opinion, far better than if they're just constantly going and doing social, which is fine. Do that as well. But I think these also help. And as I said, the primary aim is for people to come out, exercise for the physical and mental health, but also to change the mindset about exercise and how we connect to other people, because I think it will help in all aspects of your life, including relationships.
Yeah. If you go back to, I guess, this conversation started from dating. So I guess we are not dating coaches, right? Maybe I will need to invite a dating coach to this podcast to resolve some of the problems you mentioned. But what I think about events and going on to events and trying to date with people. I mean, I guess those are. I mean, there are stories like this. Some people have done maybe get married. Maybe not in your group, but maybe some other groups that those stuff happens. But
we never know. I can't. You never know. People may have.
People might have. Yeah. I mean, hearing from other people or online, people talk about these stuff, right? Those happens, but. In my opinion, those are kind of rare because, when you're going into a group, there are not a lot of people. There are some people, and some of them are maybe female, some of them are male, and they might be married, they might not be open to emotional stuff, and they might not be open to anything. So I think when a person goes to those events and in the back of their mind, maybe they're not open to it, but in the back of their mind, I want to meet with somebody, but it's low chance. And if you go to those events again and again and again and again, and you don't find somebody, you might get frustrated. So I don't think that's a right strategy for a dating. You might. I'm not obviously recommending Tinder and all those stuff. That's like I said, I'm not a dating coach, and you're not as well. Sure. But I feel I agree with what you say. If you're going to those events, you need to go for yourself and enjoy being there yourself and improve yourself, right? Otherwise, getting frustrated is not going to help you or anybody. Maybe you should find a different kind of approach to dating. World. Who knows?
Yes, I mean, look, the thing is this, and I have seen this. This is something that I've seen in the group. There have been connections made like that, but I always say there's two things that come out from this. One is you're working on yourself, and you feel actually, you put yourself in a situation where you actually feel calmer about it. You don't feel frustrated that I'm not finding anyone. So that's a good thing. Or secondly, you may find you bump into somebody that you can resonate with, or you might find friends. So, work on yourself, and the rest, hopefully, fits into place.
Yeah, hopefully, that's a good advice. So I want to go to another question, which is, so now that we have the personal background and also how Active Muslim has been founded, and how you're charging those events. So my other question is going to be, what has been the most rewarding aspect of hosting these events yourself and bringing people in the nature? If you have maybe a specific event that you cherish, memorable experience or any success story, we would love to hear that.
Oh, I mean, I think I think what's kept me going is sometimes the personal comments I get from people about how it's helped them through a difficult situation. They come to these constant hikes regularly, and how it's either helped them with their mental state, or it's just helped them physically. We have many examples of people who started off with the group hiking, and they didn't initially feel they could do one of those hikes that I mentioned earlier. 25k and 15 miles and a fast pace in the hills. They kind of struggled with it, and the same people ended up doing the very hard 45k, 28 miles hike.
Awesome.
Which is very tough. And they ended up doing it, and that was a challenge. So for them, that was something very rewardful, and it was nice to hear that they were able to do that. They were able to make progress through that consistency. and also to hear from so many people who felt it really helps them generally in life just to be able to get out, have time for themselves. So that's something that I get all the time, and that's what's really kept me going. Otherwise, you know, there's other stories of people just coming and saying, "Oh, I expected more of a mingling event," and if that always happened, that's the only thing. Then but no, fortunately, over that time, particularly in the last year, the first year, as I said, was a little challenging because we're trying to encourage, we're trying to change sort of people's behavior in a way, and and so it is difficult when majority of the people don't want that. They just want to have a dinner at the end, or coffee every time at the end, and it's not always possible when you're doing hikes in the hills. There's nothing there. You have to have a different mindset. You have to have a different mindset. Yeah. So I think for me, it's about some of the connections that are made, the friendships that have been made in the group, and some of that kind of feedback that I've got from people of how it's helped them personally in terms of either their mental health or their physical health, or both. And and the connections. There have been some really genuine connections made in the group.
Awesome. When I talk with people who are doing like free education, free hosting, free whatever, like one thing that they say, like seeing your like touching little or big like people's lives, right? How little it is or like how big it is, and that's an awesome thing in life. That's one feeling.
Yeah, that's very rewarding to see.
I totally agree. Okay, my other question is gonna be, I guess you answered this. I was gonna ask, what do you see in people, like what kind of benefits do you see in people when they keep joining these events? Like, do you want to add something to that, or should I skip this one?
I kind of answered that, I think, but I think it's for their mental and physical health, but also changing the mindset. That's something that most people don't concentrate on. So when I do events, I make it very clear that we want this group to have reliable people. If you're going to meet like-minded people, I need to create the environment for the like-minded people. So I know there are groups that will have allow initially 50 RSPVs, and then they'll increase it to 100, and then they'll increase it to 150. So my point is, when you do this, that's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying whoever then turns up, right? But what are you saying? You're saying that I don't value my time as much. You don't have to value my time. Well, I want you to commit. I want you to make a commitment. I have committed almost for 2 years. I haven't almost skipped a single Saturday, Sunday in 2 years.
Yeah, awesome.
Apart from maybe some strikes. So that's a lot of commitment. That's a lot of commitment. So I am saying from the beginning, I will commit. I will give you that consistency. I will commit and I'll give you that consistency. If you're willing to do the same, you don't have to come every time. I'm just saying, whenever you can, a month, even every month or whatever it is, you commit, you come, unless you have a reason, okay? But do not take other people's spots. That's the thing that really kind of gets me. It is people who misbehave in that way. And that happens a lot. There are some people who really don't have any respect for their own time or anybody else's time. Because what they do is they block the spot. They know I have a limited number. And the reason I do limited numbers is because I want people to have the best experience. And in my experience, when you have a group of 50, 100, whatever, you're never going to have that kind of connection with people. You just can't. In a 4-hour hike, 25 people, they can talk to each other. 50 people, it's not going to happen. You're going to wait ages for toilets. You're going to wait ages for the last people to catch up. There's many logistical reasons why I limit the number. But if I'm limiting the number, then I have to be strict on people's attendance records. And that's the element that people still don't quite get fully. Or appreciate. Well, what's the problem? I'll turn up if I turn up. Well, actually, the thing is, if I'm saying that, the capacity is 50 and then half turn up, okay, that means that you're not valuing it and I'm not valuing it. How do you value an event? So the thing is this: if you had a doctor's appointment or you paid for a flight or whatever, you value that differently, don't you? You don't miss it. You don't miss it. So it depends on how valuable this event is for you, for your exercise. Are you doing it for that reason? Or is it because, you thought, well, let's just RSPV and see, If I feel like it, I'll go, and if I don't, I'll forget about it. It doesn't matter. But it does matter here. So that element is very important in this group. And I make it very clear and I reiterate it again and again and again, because it's about changing people's behavior and mindset.
Yeah, it's, one thing that is really important is doing something regular in life is very hard thing to do. Like, most of the time when people like start learning, I don't know, programming, a musical instrument or anything, they drop it, not because, sometimes do people go overboard, even like, they do it like hours for a month, but then they stop doing it. So one thing that is really important is like doing something consistently, and like doing 2 years, like 2 days a week, right? 2 days a week, 2 years, it's amazing. Like, not being able to like not even skipping days unless it's like unless there's a problem, it's amazing. But one thing what I think happens in meetup, maybe there are some people who are just like coming in, right? And then people have low span attention these days because they're using Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and maybe at some point in their life they're like, okay, maybe I want to do hike, and then they click, I'm gonna go join, and then like after 1 day or 2 day they're like, maybe not, maybe they even forget, who knows. So it's maybe that's the
No, you're
problem.
very right. I think we are very, absolutely. I think I totally agree with you. We are very distracted, and it's very and it is genuinely very difficult to do things consistently. We know that. I would say there is also a difference I discovered actually between people in London and people up north. Once I had the bearded hikers who are quite famous. They've been on TV and everything, and they came, and actually the founder came with his family, and they did a walk in London. I was talking to them about this, and they said we don't have that problem. People just come. They come when they say they're going to come. They're going to come. So there is a difference of where you live as well. I think in London, because it's so busy and everyone's got, and there's another element to this as well, very important element to this. And ultimately, it's about the mindset. Nothing about the exercise, everything else is fine, but it's about the mindset. So, if you're not reliable, if you're not a reliable person on the meetups, and you're not regular when you say you're going to be regular, then that also creates a problem also sometimes in friendships, because what you do is you have somewhere to go, and then another friend gives you something else, and you think, I'll go to that instead because I think that's better. I'll go there. So that tends to happen more and more. Whereas actually, I believe, if you've committed, if you wanted to do something in the first place, you genuinely wanted to do it, stick to it. You never know. Sometimes that ends up being a better thing to do. Just because in your mind you think, actually, oh, that's, he's having a bigger party, I'm going to go there because that seems, that's going to be, you never know. You never know. Do what you said you're going to do. Even if the time has passed and your mind sort of starts playing with you and saying, well, I don't know if I want to really do this. Just do it, because it can make a difference sometimes.
Yeah, it's, I guess, compared to London and those different people in the parts of the world, it's being responsible is hard these days, and distractions, maybe, it's not even just about these events, really. Like, if your mood is always changing, and if you're not reliable if you're not reliable, maybe coming to a meetup, probably you're not reliable in your life, in a sense. Maybe you want to commit something in your life, but you can't, something like that, maybe. So working on distractions and working on these aspects is important. And you're right to reiterate and bring it up again and again and again, because I think people need to work in this aspect. So I want to switch to another question. Your events mostly happening on UK, and maybe there are some other people are watching from different parts of the world. I'm from Turkey, by the way. I'm recording this from Turkey live, actually. So I want to ask is what advice would you give to someone who wants to incorporate more outdoor activities into their lifestyle, but they're maybe hesitant or unsure where to start? Because, your personal stories as well, like you're coming from a place like that as well, right? So what advice would you give to those people?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, you rightly mentioned, it's really difficult. The motivation side and consistency is really difficult. And I think this is where this kind of group helps. Now, unfortunately, majority of the groups that take this approach are generally kind of non-Muslim groups. So often I have people come to this group and they kind of moan a little bit because they think, oh, this is hard, or this is a hard, I didn't think it was going to be that hard. It's not that hard actually, because I have reduced the level because of our communities, because there is a difference. If and there is a reason why there's a difference. So most of the Western community, they're used to going to camping and hiking because their parents have taken them. In our communities, that's not the case. My parents didn't take me hiking and camping. They had enough problems of their own trying to make a living, right?
Yeah.
So there is a reason why sometimes our communities have that problem, genuinely, because we just didn't grow up with it, right? So now we are starting to understand, so we can try and change it. So it will take time. So I would say try to join something like this. But what I was saying earlier is that people who sometimes complain here, I often ask them, have you ever been to the normal ones here, like the non-Muslim ones? And they say no. Well, I said, go to them and see the difference. Because there are people who are, I know many groups, and one of them, they do hikes every Saturday, Sunday as well. And they're proper ramblers. They're mature group. And if you see the speed they hike in, you'd think, wow, this is amazing. And I said, we do this kind of fast hike occasionally. They do it every week. That's the difference, you see? So I said, there's the difference. So you don't understand what the norm is. It's just because you're not used to it. That's the reason. And I'm catering for everyone. I do very easy hikes, easy walks in parks in London, to very challenging ones. But it's mixed. There's different things. But these people, they're doing it every week. Some of them are 50s and 60s years old, and they're doing it every week. So I said, look, it's no one to blame. It's just where we are as a society, not a problem. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage people. So I would say, if you have difficulty in motivation, you need to just go and do it when you're with other people, like-minded people. You're more likely to then, be encouraged to continue and doing things. If you can't motivate yourself, if you can't regularly exercise, maybe go to the gym or whatever it is that you want to do, try and do, then join something like this. There's usually running groups, if you like running, everywhere in the world nowadays. There's walking groups everywhere in the world. There are groups. So it's possible to join something. And maybe you like basketball, maybe you like something else. It doesn't matter. As long as you get yourself out there and do some exercise regularly, it will improve your health.
Awesome. It's, by the way, when we were talking about these consistency stuff and attention span, I say this, by the way, because I was also having these problems. And still today, at some days, I'm having problems as well. It's not to criticize. It's just to understand and share those experiences so that people can be more
we all have problems. I have that problem.
Yeah.
yeah, I have that problem as well. Everybody has that problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to ask the group name is Active Muslims, but also in the description it is stated that it's not just for Muslims. But now we understand, why you wanted to because you've been talking about it for a while now, why you wanted to take that kind of an approach. Yeah. Do you want to clarify anything on there? Everybody's invited, right? And maybe you have different people just.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, exactly. So. It was a real dilemma because I didn't want to really call it Active Muslims because it's kind of restricting it. I know it was going to restrict it. But the problem I had was the people who really needed targeting were people in those communities, Muslim communities generally. Asians as well. Obviously, there are non-Muslims there as well. Yeah. But, I know that's a bigger problem. We have, huge issues with our health, particularly. So how do I get those people to notice the group? So putting the word Muslim allows them to see straight away. And I know there are people who don't join other groups. They just don't, if I just said active people, they think it's just a mixed group and they don't want to go there. And there's a reason. If you live in London, have you been to London? Have you lived in London at all?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, so one of the things we have in this country, and I spoke about my own growing up in this country, and issues with racism and issues with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And there's still prejudice, there's still racism. And one of the issues that I have is for people who make this argument, well, don't call it Muslims or whatever. I said, I thought about this. First of all, it's about making sure people understand that, there's this group you can join. It's easy for them to join. Okay, they find it easily. Okay, so that's one of the reasons. Number two, I will change the name tomorrow when we have equality for our people in this country. When I'm not looked upon in a particular way when I go to certain places in the UK, even with my hikes. And, we might get comments, or we might get, these things happen even now. So the day that changes, the day we actually have equality, that's fine. And one of the reasons is I get people saying, I'm really glad this group exists, because, I used to go with the non-Muslim hikers and they always end up in a pub, and they always do usually, because that's, that's fine. They go, they end up in a pub and then they chat and whatever. It's a natural thing to do. Nothing wrong with them. However, they feel uncomfortable because the conversation isn't the same. They don't feel, whatever. And here they feel at home. This is one of the things that I find a lot of people say in the group, is that they feel at home. They feel comfortable. So even if they don't want to talk to anyone, they don't want to socialize, they just feel comfortable that they're walking with a group of people who are like-minded at least at some level, because they also happen to be Asian, Muslim, or they've gone through similar things, with whatever. Yeah. So that's the reason, actually, that I've called it Active Muslims, because at the moment, it still helps. It helps.
Yeah, I clearly can see what you mean. Though it's gonna probably alienate people in some other way, but they're still welcome. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but you have some sort of.
Yeah, I am sure. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, obviously, some people will get put off by the word Muslim on it anyway. They won't join.
Yeah,
it's simple as that. Even though they haven't given it a chance. If they actually come to the hike, they'll see, absolutely perfectly, normal human beings. They're like to do the same things. In fact, they might enjoy it even more.
Yeah.
But they need to give it a chance. But that's
you gotta be open-minded in life, I guess. Okay, so
yeah, definitely.
Coming into the last questions, by the way, do you have some future goals or plans? I mean, I think I love how consistent you guys are, doing 2 times a week. It's amazing. But do you have any some future goals or plans do you have for the group, or new events or initiatives, anything coming up?
So, I mean, I've always said that this group has, when I first started it, my intention was, and still is, that this is for people who want to make a change, who want to do these kind of events, go and exercise, look after their mental health, physical health. And beyond that, whoever wants to come, they can come. And if nobody comes, I'm perfectly fine going back and doing it myself, because I enjoy nature anyway.
Yeah.
So it's me just sharing my experience and encouraging people to do this. That's all it is. And how it grows, it depends on people. So just recently, not so long ago, we did our first international event. We went to Tubgal with the help of Iman, who is actually Moroccan, and we went to Morocco, so she helped with all of that organization. So there are people within the group who present ideas and then help, and so that is the only way it can grow, because it's a kind of a community thing. And we did that. We took 16 people, and we climbed the highest mountain in Morocco, and it was an amazing event that everybody thoroughly enjoyed. And we've had overnights. We're having another overnight very soon, a 2-night trip coming up as well. We've done 2 before that as well. And
these are released on Meetup, right? All of these.
It is, yeah. That is released, but it's not really quite announced, because there are very core group of people who are very reliable, and with those kind of events, I give priority to people who are reliable and regular.
Makes sense.
And there are obviously some new people who say, well, why can't we just come? I said, look, the whole purpose of this group is to build on that connection, and these people are reliable. They've met each other already. What a great opportunity for them to have an overnight, kind of 2 nights in a retreat, where they can actually build on those connections. That's a fair thing to do. That's the right thing to do. It's not fair for somebody totally new who's not been in the group. Once they've done that, then they also have a chance. So that's how we work. We try to work what I feel is the fairest way in the group to try and build those connections whilst we're looking after our own health and mental health.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And I totally understand, how you give prayer, because, if you probably release that event, some people are going to say, I'm coming, and maybe they don't try. So it's like, and also it's international.
The problem,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem I have actually is that majority of the events, they always have a waiting list. They go sometimes within an hour. And there's always a waiting list, a long waiting list. Now, a lot of people will say that's a good thing. For me, it's a challenge because I don't want them to be in the waiting list, but I also want to sort out those people who are unreliable and constantly taking other people's spots because they're not turning up. So
can't you ban them? If they do it again and again.
Well, the thing. Yeah, so I've had this comment from people saying, why don't you ban them? There are people who've done this for almost 2 years, believe it or not.
Really?
So I have a rule. Yeah. I mean, it's they're saying you're being too lenient, even though some people think I'm being too, because of the approach. Some people think I'm being too, strict about things. But being on time, if that's being strict, or trying to do the right thing, if that's being strict, then that's fine by me. But the point is that the reason why I don't generally ban people, unless they've done something silly, is that I have seen people who are very introvert, very shy. Eventually, like after 6 months, a year, they turned up.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't embarrass them and say, oh, why did you do that so many times? They come and they realize, and they start to, because we have that. We have more of that in our cultures and in our society. We have a lot of introverts, a lot of shy people. Sure. And so sometimes they just need time. But at the same time, in order to, build up that sort of reliable people list, I eventually do move them back into the waiting list. So, for example, if they keep doing it, then they don't always get a chance to go to events until the waiting list is full with the reliable people and there's some space left. So they lose out, until they are reliable. So it works that way. So that's how over the year, particularly the last year, that we've built up a reliable group of people who, when they say they turn up, they turn up. And if they don't turn up, then usually there's a good reason. And they'll email me or they'll message me to say, I'm really sorry, but I genuinely have this problem. Well, of course, that's normal. I mean, everybody has that issue. But a year ago, when you have over 50% people dropping out, that's something wrong with the society. I'm sorry to say, that's something wrong with that society, because that never, and I'll go back to my previous thing that I said about the boot camp I used to do, when 70 people used to turn up in the summer on my boot camp, and every single person came on time. Maybe one was late or something, but they joined in, and they were regular, they're reliable. So compare that stat to doing it with our communities. So there is a difference, regardless of what some people might think, there is a difference between communities. And that's one of them that I've seen firsthand, and I've had experience in that. Yeah. So I know that happens, but we've improved that stat. So no, sometimes we have, we've had over 90% attendance record, which is kind of
awesome.
Unheard of on some media. Yeah. So we've had that. And but that's only because I've had to force that, build it up. Mm-hmm. And you could say, and it's a harder way of doing it. My life would be a lot easier and less stressful if I didn't do that, because a lot of groups don't. But then they don't value it in the same way. They don't put that instill the same value in people. So for me, that message is very important. It's part and parcel of active Muslims. It's part and parcel of active Muslims that we encourage people to change their behavior towards others and towards time.
Yeah,
time management.
I think in this episode, it's been very clear, explaining all of it.
Yeah, I do go on. I'm very passionate about it. I do go on about it a lot. Almost every event, there's always a discussion with somebody about why.
Awesome.
Why?
Like,
yeah, that's true.
If you were to, I think you can cut a clip from this podcast later on, so that you can share with people, outside.
Maybe share.
Maybe it'll help. Okay, this is my last question, which is, what are some of the books that has changed your life, if there's any you would like to share?
Oh, you've asked me a question now. You see, the truth of the matter is, you're assuming I read a lot of books.
Right.
Unfortunately, I wish I did. But
it doesn't have to be books.
Having gone through,
it can be a TV show or a movie.
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I read a lot of stuff online and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm more of a factual kind of person, so unfortunately, I'm a little ashamed to say I haven't read many books at all recently, because I just don't. I can't focus on them, because I've gone through my own journey, and for that reason, I have to be very honest and say I haven't done that. But I think a lot of things I come across, I get touched by people and their sort of comments and their experiences. So for me, so recently I haven't actually read anything. But one book I did read, I think the last one I did actually read, was Ibn Battuta's journals. So I was fascinated by this man. I think more people should know about him, even though we know maybe more about Marco Polo in the West. But Ibn Battuta was a kind of a real inspiration for me for traveling, and in just generally in life as well. I think it was an incredible journey. And if you don't know much about him, I would definitely recommend that.
Can
I
you
mean,
say
he's
the
a
name
21-year law student. Yeah. Sorry?
Can you say the name again? I couldn't catch it.
So Ibn Battuta, everybody's heard of, right? Ibn Battuta is the 14th century law student.
I know.
He was So he was only 21. So he wrote what are considered to be the best travel journals of all time. He travels 3 times more than Marco Polo, 3 times more, and yet Marco Polo is better known. So there's something wrong with the way history is written as well. It's an inspirational thing, and I would also recommend, if someone hasn't watched there's only one little movie that was made about his journey, the initial journey when he went to Mecca, and that was it's called Ibn Battuta's Journey to Mecca. Okay, look it up. It's only 45 minutes. It was done in IMAX, and I actually saw it in Waterloo, which is close to the Waterloo station, in IMAX, and it's really beautifully made and gives you an insight into his first journey. But he traveled for, I think, 30 countries for 30 modern day countries for 40 years, or vice versa. I can't remember. Yeah. But the point is, he never saw his parents. That's how long he traveled for. When he returned, they had already passed away. So I think that was very inspirational, and that's something that I would say. That was the last thing I read anyway. So, yeah.
No, it's the reason why I actually asked this question to every guest that we have, because it doesn't have, personally, there are some books that changed my life, the way that I look at the world, but also there are a lot of people as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be books. Like the people that I've met also changed the way that I look at my life. But obviously, books are good in a sense where you can also reach out the perspectives, that lives maybe in the 14th century, right? So it touches you in a sense. Yeah. That's why I would like to ask it. But okay, so that was my last question. And is there anything you want to add, commentaries or things you want to tell our audience? Other than maybe, come in time. If you click the accept, please come to the event.
I mean, I think that's my biggest bugbear is just, if you're going to, if you're saying you're going to come or take yourself off in time so others can attend, that's the main thing. Other than that, it's, everybody's welcome, and, we focus on the actual activity, and we focus on trying to make better connections. So, if that's something that you want to do, then that's, you're welcome.
Oh, awesome.
And hopefully we'll see you one day. Hopefully we'll see you in London one day as well.
If I come to London, I will be sure to come in Saturday one day. Definitely. I'm really intrigued.
Definitely.
Okay. If you want to follow Active Muslims, You can follow on meetup.com/active-muslims. Also, they have an Instagram page, which is instagram.com/active.muslims. And you will find all these in the description. There will be links. But I don't know if you have any other like social media account or anything. These were the ones that I just found out.
No, those are the main two channels that we use at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Then thank you for coming in. It was a great conversation.
Likewise.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Yeah. And this is it for us, guys. Then see you on the next episode. Bye bye.